Lisa here, and today I'm doing a video by special request, so shout out to Miss Halliburton who asked that I do a video on the pros and cons of the Guard versus the Reserve, and of course I'm going to talk about the differences between the Guard and the Reserve as well. Now, there are 5 branches: the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, the Coast Guard, and the Marine Corps. The Coast Guard falls under the Department of Homeland Security, and the other aforementioned branches fall under the Department of Defense. And every single one of these branches has a reserve component. It's important to note that only the Air Force and the Army have a National Guard component. So that is one of the significant differences between the Reserve and the Guard. And by the way, I served 9 years in the Army Reserve, and I've been in the Air National Guard since 2012. So I've been in both the Reserve and the Guard, so hopefully I can use my experiences to explain to you guys the differences between the two and also the benefits. And also, by the way, while any of you are listening to this, if questions pop up, please be sure to drop them in the comment section below. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. And also, if you have a video you would like me to do and I'm knowledgeable on the subject, I'm happy to do that. And then hopefully you guys can be knowledgeable on that subject as well. All right, so let's get back to talking about the Guard and the Reserve. So again, only the Air Force and the Army have National Guard components, but all of the branches have reserve components. Another significant difference is that sometimes in the Guard you can receive benefits not available to you in the Reserve. For instance, the Alabama Air National Guard generally pays tuition for all of its Guard members so long as they are attending a state university. It might be that another state does not provide this same benefit. So when it comes to the Guard, you have to make sure you're checking in with your recruiter and verifying what you're told through Google searches, etc., talking to people that are in. You have to verify the information and make sure you're clear on the benefits available to you based on the state you will be serving in. And of course, in the Reserve, the federal government provides benefits. It's not a state-run benefits program. So in the Reserve, the benefits are more uniform. But again, in the Guard, the benefits can vary from state to state. So make sure you're checking the facts regarding the benefits available to you. Now, another significant difference lies in command. So federal forces are, of course, federal, and so they fall under the command of the President of the United States. At the National Guard level, it is state-run, so you fall under the command of the governor of your state. Now, the President has the authority to federalize Guard members or Guard units, and of course, at that point, they would fall under the command of the President. A governor, however, cannot take command of the reserve forces. So that is a significant difference. And also, and this is interesting, if you are a reservist and you're on active duty, you will fall under the jurisdiction of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Now, some states have adopted a form of the UCMJ at the state level. So Alabama, for instance, has the Alabama Code for Military Justice, and it's very similar to the Uniform Code for Military Justice. But this is the interesting thing. Some states have not adopted a statewide version of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Now, this doesn't mean that, guardsmen in those states are running around in lawlessness because, of course, you are, if you're in the Air Force, subject to the Air Force instructions, and you are, if you are in the Army, subject to the Army regulations. But just keep in mind that as a reservist, if you're on active duty, you are subject to the jurisdiction of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And if you're in the Guard, you will be subject to the jurisdiction of a statewide form of the Uniform Code of Military Justice if your state has adopted one, and some states have not. So that is another significant difference. And of course, this will only apply to you if you get into some trouble, right? So hopefully none of you ever have to learn about the Uniform Code of Military Justice or a similar statewide type of, policy or regulation. But that's just another interesting difference between the Guard and the Reserve. Now, there are some similarities, of course. So one similarity is the requirements for drill. So whether you are a reservist or a guardsman, you will typically be required to drill or perform active duty with your unit 1 weekend a month. Every now and then you'll be asked to drill on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but generally it's a 1 weekend a month commitment, and you will get 15 AT, or annual training days, per year. Now sometimes you will use these days with your unit, and sometimes you will, pick these days at your pleasure, and you'll serve an extra 15 days at some point throughout the year based on your schedule. But generally, people will serve these days with the unit they are attached to. So that's something that is basically the same whether you're in the Guard or the Reserve, is this active duty commitment. Now, one way people choose to go Guard or Reserve is simply based on locality. So for instance, I was in the Army Reserve, so naturally I was looking to transfer to the Air Force Reserve, because the Air Force Reserve I thought would be similar to the Army Reserve, and so it would have been, a more comfortable transition for me. But guess what? Wah wah. The Air Force Reserve unit closest to me did not have any judge advocate slots. Which brings me to a second way people decide between the Guard and the Reserve. It's not only location, so there might not be a Reserve unit close to you, but there might be a Guard unit close to you. There's also slots. So let's say you're a finance officer. Well, the Guard unit close to you might not have a finance officer slot, but the Reserve might. So you're going to look at location. What is close to you? Is it a Guard unit? Is it a Reserve unit? And if you have both, then which one has a slot that you actually want to step into? It might be that only the Guard unit has a slot for you. So in my case, I could not join the Air Force Reserve unit closest to me because they were already triple slotted with judge advocates. Now, if you wait a while, sometimes a slot will open up, although I knew I wanted to go ahead and get transferred over to the Air Force side of the house. So I ended up joining an Air Guard unit because they had a judge advocate slot, and I'm certainly happy that I joined the Guard. I'm happy with my Guard home and my Guard family. But anyways, that's just a second way people will decide Guard or Reserve. And a third way that people decide whether they want to go Guard or Reserve is tying back to what I said earlier, the benefits available. So you might be able to get more money for school if you go Guard rather than Reserve. And again, make sure you're touching base with the recruiter on the specific benefits available to you in the Guard of your state. And then just, make sure you verify everything you're told. You want to make sure the people you're talking to are keeping it 100, right? And thankfully we have Google and YouTube these days that makes it easier for us to verify information. But those are the basic similarities and differences of the Guard versus the Reserve, and that's a fairly quick rundown of the benefits. Really the only other thing that you're going to want to make sure you keep in mind is the retirement benefits. So some states, for instance, do not tax your retirement benefits if you're retiring from the Guard, and other states do. So make sure you're thinking about the end of your career and not just the beginning of your career. Just kind of do yourself a favor there and make sure you're checking into that as well. And I really think that covers most of it. Again, if you guys have specific questions, make sure you drop a comment below. Make sure you like and subscribe. I hope these videos help you guys, and you can help me by subscribing to the channel. I'm going to make sure to put up a video at least every Wednesday. Sometimes I'll do more, but hopefully at least every Wednesday I'll get a video up. And again, I've served in the Army and the Air Force, the Reserve and the Guard, so I can answer questions about both of those branches. I did Army ROTC, so if you have ROTC questions, feel free to ask. And I'm a judge advocate. I was formerly a military intelligence officer, so if you have questions about those specific MOSs, be sure to let me know below. I really enjoy hearing from you guys, and I love doing these videos. There were a lot of things I did not know before I joined the military, and I want to make sure that I can help you guys feel as prepared for this journey as possible. I've been in 17 years now, so if you have a question, likely I can answer it, and even if I can't, I will likely know someone who can. So don't be shy. Feel free to hit me up. And with that said, I will see you guys next time. Thanks for listening, everyone.